Hey pushers, I'm about to go through my most requested review questions so far this year, and honestly from other years too, the history of political parties. If you're not an A pusher, go ahead and scroll on by because this is not going to really pertain to you. I am simplifying it, I am generalizing it, so there's likely going to be something that makes you upset. And honestly, I'm not here for it. So, A pushers, here we go. Simplified version of the history of political parties. So, when you're thinking about the political parties, I want for you to associate them under this umbrella of a centralized or decentralized government. So, centralized government just simply means that the federal government is going to hold more power, and a decentralized government is going to mean that the states hold more power. If you can remember each political party associating with this idea, you're going to be able to make a better guess as to how they feel about certain things. So, our first political parties are going to emerge during the presidency of George Washington. And so what we're going to have is the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. The Federalists want a strong federal government, and so they are going to have a loose interpretation of the Constitution, and they're more likely to be found in the Northeast, and the are going to be manufacturers, merchants, that sort of industrial idea. The Democratic Republicans are going to be more in favor of agriculture and states' rights and a strict interpretation of the Constitution. So you want to be familiar with these first political parties. And then as we go through the next ones, it's really important to kind of know what is happening that's making the shift. Why is there going to be a change in the political systems or the political parties? If you can identify these like 5 or 6 shifts, you'll have a better understanding of the particular things that the College Board might ask you about. So our next time period is actually still within the first party system. It's called the Era of Good Feelings. So in the War of 1812, the Federalist Party is going to consider seceding from the United States, and that is going to lead to their demise. They're going to be seen as unpatriotic. So the Federalist Party is going to go away. And for about 3 elections, there's only going to be one major political party. And so a lot of people associate this time as like a strong period of patriotism and nationalism. And we see that really explicitly with just the one Democratic Republican Party. But this does not last forever. As you can see, we shift to 1828 and the emergence of Jackson as president. And this is where we're going to see the Democratic Republicans really split into 2 different groups. So first we have the National Republicans, and then that's going to kind of turn into the Whig Party. And those are going to be most similar to the Federalists. Again, a lot of manufacturing, industry interests. They're going to oppose Jackson, and they are going to really be in favor of the American system. The Democratic Party is again going to be more of our agricultural, states' rights groups, opposed to the American system. Also in this period, we do see some third parties. The main one to know is going to be the 2 to know would be the Free Soil movement, who want to avoid the expansion of slavery into the West, and the Know Nothing or the American Party, which is going to be all about anti-immigration attitudes, nativist attitudes. Then we have the third party system starting in 1854. So the Whig Party goes away in 1844. That's kind of the shift that happens. The Whigs go away because they're divided really over the issue of slavery. So some Whigs are going to join the new Republican Party, and other Whigs will join the Democratic Party. And so the new Republican Party that comes up, the main thing that students typically remember is that it's a free soil party. They do not want to abolish slavery at the start. While they do have abolitionist part of it, their party platform is a free soil platform. And so this party is going to continue, these parties will now be the names for our current political parties. However, their ideologies don't always stay the same. When we get close to the election of 1896, we see a lot of issues around the money question. And so the Republican Party is going to want to maintain just the gold standard, whereas many Democrats will kind of adopt the idea of the new populist party, which is going to be in favor of bimetallism, the gold and the silver standard. They also will be more in favor of labor unions over on the Democratic side. Okay, fourth party system is going to take us from 1896 to 1932. So again, kind of this populist party is going to lead to some shifts in ideologies. Also in 1898, we have this new period of imperialism, and so that is also going to influence the party platforms. And so in our fourth party system, we see the Republican Party starting off as being really pro-business and industry, but as the progressive movement comes around, some presidents like Teddy Roosevelt and Taft, who are going to be technically Republicans, but adhere to a lot of these progressive ideas, Republicans will kind of change their stance and be more in favor of some regulation. The Democrats at the time are most associated with the ideas of segregation. So in this period, there's still a lot of segregation. And so the party that's going to be more in favor of maintaining the status quo when it comes to race is going to be the Democrats. Now, the major catalyst that ends the fourth party system is going to be the Great Depression. So if you look at the difference between the maps in 1928 and 1932, you're going to see a massive change that happens. Now, if you talk about how there's a huge shift in political parties, you're going to get some hate, but what you want to think about is that there's a realignment, that parties change their platforms. They change the way they think about what the role of government is. And so now in 1932, the Democrats are going to be more in favor of the centralized government, or a government that intervenes in the affairs of its citizens, in the economy. And the New Deal is going to be a really good example of that. And at this point, we see a lot of African Americans who had voted for Republicans shifting towards the Democratic Party. Now, the Republican Party is going to become the party that is more focused on states' rights and keeping the government out of the lives or the economy especially. And so we see a lot of Southern conservatives shifting from voting for the Democratic Party for decades to now voting for Republicans. Then in 1980, we start the sixth party system, and that's the party system that we are currently in. And we continue to see the Democrats being in favor of a centralized, more powerful government, and Republicans being in favor of states' rights. So kind of those same things continue. However, in the 1980s, we see a resurgence of conservatives and an adoption of conservatives to very traditional social values. And so that's really the catalyst for this change in parties that we see happening kind of around 1980. So I hope this was helpful for you. I know it's a lot, but hopefully just by focusing on these moments when things change, you'll be able to identify what is happening throughout these various time periods.